George Bernard Shaw said the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. I think this is so accurate and especially true for those nerve wracking situations like the job interview. When Mel and I first started working together, she felt like she was performing, like she wasn't really connecting with the people that she was interviewing with. And the more she tried, the harder it felt. It sounded to me like she was in this dark room and there's a switch that she's looking around for and she just can't seem to find. If she could just flip that switch, she could access the part of her brain that she needed to in order to rock that interview. You know, when you respond to a question and at the end of responding, you're not exactly sure what you said, but you know or you think that it didn't quite land well. But then you look across the table, you see all these blank stares and realize, yeah, yep, didn't land the way I wanted it to. That's what was happening to Mel. So here's the question for today, which I think applies to so many of our interviews. What's really happening when our interview feels a bit like a monologue? Hey there, this is the Uncommon Career Podcast, and I help you to find the right words to share your career experience, and then I help you communicate them clearly and consistently so that you can get noticed, hired, and valued by your organization. My name is Patricia Ortega, and I'm your brand strategist and your career coach. And I do this exact work because I know what it feels like to get lost in communication and then not be able to find your way back. I made career my career because one super botched interview let me know a long time ago that number one, this was really important for my future. And number two, I needed help. 15 years later, I absolutely love this work, and helping other people to overcome barriers just like this has become my mission in life. And so, whether you're new here or if you and I have been spending time together for a while, I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that you're coming from the podcast. We both know it's great to expand our networks, and I just love hearing from you. Okay, so back to the question. What exactly is happening when your interview feels one sided, like you're giving a speech? There's a pattern I tend to see, and it happens in layers. The first layer happens well before the interview. Essentially, it's when you're picking your career stories, thinking, okay, what do I prepare for this interview? And usually, what happens is that you choose stories that are the most compelling, that have your biggest outcome, that make you look pretty darn good. And that's great. But what happens is that those stories nudge out the stories that are really important. What's most important isn't necessarily your biggest outcome. What's most important is what's most relevant and makes you the best fit for the role. So, what I'm saying is that I see this show up first in what feel like really small decisions that nobody would question. These small decisions are things like the stories to prepare, and these lead to bigger disconnects later on. Now, the second part of this pattern is that I noticed over time a worry or a concern starts to surface a little more clearly, but it's still hard to pin down. Maybe your finances depend on this interview and you can feel it. Or there's pressure to get hired already. Or you feel like you're really qualified. So, what would it mean if you didn't move forward? What would it say about you? These small worries and concerns start to show up as self protection. And so you put up this wall protecting your image as very controlled information goes out. But that's a lot of mental processing, and that mental processing takes up the space needed to be able to hear, understand, and speak to the real time information that matters most to the person across the table. And then there's often this moment when people realize, oh, shoot, what I was trying to protect, I ended up losing. Whether it's the job offer, the desire to appear a certain way, regardless, our mind tries so hard to protect it that it slips right through our fingers. But the best part, though, is that some of the most rewarding moments, and I've noticed this with my clients, with students, with executives, with myself, and just human nature in general, is that if we can get that anxiety, that nervousness, that worry to come down, the wall comes down with it. Now you're more open. And because you're more open, you're able to take more information in. And now you've got the mental space. And now you can truly connect because you're speaking to the information that's being communicated to you and not just speaking to a worry or fear. So our goal is to move from this internal desire to whether it's make a good impression or win the interview and shift that into a desire to be fully present in the moment. Now, in Mel's situation, we've talked about the nerves that come up during interviews and the thoughts that tend to run through our mind and the concerns that become a barrier to clear thinking and clear communication. Last week, though, she went into an interview, and actually, it was multiple interviews with more than one person each. So it was an intense situation. And can I just tell you, she absolutely crushed it. She found the light switch in the dark room. She found it and she flipped it. The one thing she said to me when she got out of the interview was, I was present. She was able to look at and interpret their facial expressions. She can see when they looked confused and when something resonated. She was able to adjust her response based on those cues, and she was able to stop in the middle of her explanation, ask a very short, quick, clarifying question, and then continue on without losing her train of thought. She optimized her response in real time. She was super excited, not necessarily because she got the call back, it's far too early for that, but because she was present enough to bring herself, her audience, and her message together for a really engaging high stakes conversation. And that is a serious win. So the takeaway for today is simple. When you're present, you're able to connect. You can understand, and then you can speak directly to what matters most to the person in front of you. Because when you can learn in the moment, you can think and speak clearly. And that's where people finally begin to listen. This is the work that I absolutely love. It's this inside out work. These changes aren't hacks or surface level advice. What I'm talking about here is learning to feel regulated in the moment and optimizing how you speak. You want to be able to speak exactly from who you are, from this place of authenticity, because then you feel better and they feel better too because they can understand your message and they feel that you're truly there in the room with them. And even better, the information you're sharing tells them you're the right person for the job. If this is something you'd like to work on, I encourage you to book a conversation. We can talk about your biggest challenge, the strategy we can implement to overcome it, and we can determine whether or not you and I are a good fit. I coach you end to end on your job search, including all those moments you wish you had a light switch for, and we'll work together coaching to discover your brand impact and value, develop your message, co create your interview strategy, and then support in all the ups and downs of the search so that you can show up as your very best self. If that would make your job search feel lighter, you can head over to theuncommoncareer.com/call. That's theuncommoncareer.com/CALL. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk about this potential blocker to communication because we don't always realize this is there. More to come as we continue week to week. But until then, know that Denise and I are cheering you on. We're praying for y'all, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.